Hey folks, welcome back. This time around, I thought we'd look at some fight sequences, and I just wanted to maybe share my approach working from references when it comes to fight sequences. So I found these off of Pinterest. They're obviously from a book that's been scanned in. I do not know the name of the book. I've been looking for it, but it contains a rather large collection of combat sequences, hand-to-hand combat, and it's from different angles and different body shapes, and it's pretty cool. And what I want to do is I want to just take one of these poses and just kind of deconstruct it in a way that you can see how I work. So um, something that I've noted here is that I've put both of these characters on their own separate layers. You can see how the characters in the reference are very much not really overlapping. They're kind of spread out from each other. And I made the decision to actually go ahead and take the pose and scale it up to make it appear as if the character that's getting hit is much closer to the viewer. So when you're working on something like this, my advice would be to try to see if you can separate them into layers so that way you have more flexibility. Like if I wanted to move this guy up or move him down, I could easily do that. And this also helps me look for things like, clear silhouettes. Just want to make sure that I'm not running into any tangents. And usually with fight sequences, from what I've seen in comic books and other types of media, it's usually the moment before the impact or the moment right after the impact. We just see this. Uh, we can feel the punch being thrown, even though we're not necessarily seeing the connection of the fist to the head. So anyway, that's enough preamble. Let's go ahead and take a look at a fight sequence over here. So I'll just do this one here. Let me move that in. So the first thing I do is I look at the position of the shoulder blades, and I'm going to start with this guy over here. We can see that he's got, let's draw this as a cylinder here representing the shoulders itself. And then we've got the pelvis. This is a foreshortened pose, meaning that we're actually looking down on the subject, so we're not necessarily seeing everything, in its normal state. Everything looks a little bit more compressed, like his back, due to this angle, appears to be much more condensed. So I'm keeping that in mind. And I usually take about 2 or 3 passes to get this right, but this is part of my initial study. So I've established the shoulders, I've established where the pelvis is. We can see the arms, and I'll just go ahead and draw these as cylinders. Again, not thinking about detail. We have the other arm. And also interesting to note here that the angle of the wrist, and I'll just create this as a trapezoidal shape for now. I'll make another trapezoidal shape for this hand, like so. We can see a little bit of the chest, so I'll just annotate that. It's almost like the back has a little bit of curvature to it. And when you're working with references, at least in my experience, I'll end up exaggerating what I'm seeing because, as great and dynamic as this photo is, it still looks a bit stiff. If I were to trace over this particular photo, it would definitely look flat and not so dynamic. So it's up to me to kind of interpret what I'm seeing here. So we see the thigh, we see another foot kind of extending out. Um, we see the butt. And I'll just indicate I'm going to draw through the form. We see a little bit of the lower leg. We don't really see the shoes. And then we also have the head. So I'll pick a different color for the head just so that we don't have so much confusion. Um, we can see that we see much more of the shoulder that's closest to us. So the head position is going to be somewhere over here. We can see where the ear is. And I'm just going to briefly indicate where the eye line is, where the nose line is, and where the mouth line is. And we have the hairline. We can see that the distance between the nose and the mouth is much closer than that from the eyes to the nose. So that's something that I'm being aware of. Um, let's see. Putting this on its own layer so I can also potentially scale this up if I need to. So that's this guy right here. I'll just merge it together. One of the things that I'm noticing about this reference is, or what I don't like about it is, I don't like the way this foot sticks out. As cool as it looks like in the photo here, it just feels like if I were to block this whole character in with a solid color, I think the silhouette would be a little bit confusing. So references are great, but you don't have to be completely married to the reference. So with this guy over here, I'll just drop the opacity and just draw through this form, maybe formalizing things a bit. So I've got the arm. I like this arm because this arm is very clearly delineated. I like the fact that we can see a little bit of the chest. That's cool. And I'm not really worried about putting clothing on these characters just at this moment. I like how this other arm swings, and I think that if I were to self-edit, I would just move this arm forward. And this has that trapezoidal shape. And then I'll commit the head. So essentially I'm just drawing over the existing layer. We have the ears, we have the eye line, we have the nose, and we have the mouth. And I'll just open the mouth a little bit. We have the chin. There's a little bit more distance between the mouth and the chin. And so now that I have this kind of established here, I think I could make this a little bit stronger. I don't like this foot coming out. We're obviously looking at it from top down. What if I bring a little bit more of this foot out where I can see it? Because this is a top-down view, that foot will appear to be much smaller because it's furthest away from the viewer. And then I will also maybe elect to, I'm trying to think of if I want to have this other foot instead of coming out like this. For some reason, I feel like it might be more beneficial to bring this foot back. I'm not happy with the way that is. So here's the butt. Maybe I need to extend that foot. It just looks a little bit off to me. I need to give that some thought. What I'm struggling with here is that the rest of this, I think, silhouettes pretty easily. This back foot is kind of problematic. Maybe I'll do something like this, so at least we can see that there's that back foot. I can always fill this in with black. And I've got this guy kind of blocked out. Right. Again, just kind of getting my bearings, looking at the reference, and making some decisions as to what I want to keep, what I want to discard. I also think it's also helpful to rotate this around just so I can see it from different angles. I mean, you can always take a hit like this and make it look like someone's being thrown. And I think if I just twist this angle a little bit more, maybe I have this foot. Again, just experimenting and seeing what works. I mean, he's being tossed like a rag doll. What if we put that foot, we can see the bottom of the foot itself, and then rotate it. Could almost be like the foot is dangling over some kind of precipice, or we're getting some. So to kind of give you some insight into what I'm thinking about here, we've got this leg bent, we've got this leg stretched. It's not fully stretched, um, because it would just look a little bit too stiff. All right, let's leave that as is. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other guy that's fighting here. So on a new layer, what I'll do is I'll just establish where the shoulder blades are. So now I'm working on this guy right here. You can see that the shoulder blades are basically facing more towards us. And then we have the pelvis here that is at this angle. Those caps indicate the plane of the pelvis that we actually see. I'll just ignore the clothing for right now so I can focus on the shape of the body. And I think this pose appears to be a little bit more, clear from a silhouette standpoint. So we've got this upper arm, we've got the lower arm. These are trapezoidal shape for the hand. Got the pants. Again, foreshortened. Almost like there's a little bit of a twist on his leg. You can see the other hint of the other shoulder blade here. We also have the head. The head has a little bit of a tilt. We see just a little bit of the hand, but again, it's not going to make for a clear silhouette. So I'm going to elect to leave that out. Let's see if we can strengthen that pose too. So I feel like I can make that stronger. I'm going to turn that open hand into an actual fist. So we get this nice twist. And then for the, uh, I guess the coat or whatever he's wearing, you can see that it kind of flies up. I'm just looking at the primary shapes that I'm seeing here. Not worried so much about detail. It's got some pleating going on. Anywhere you've got like a joint or an arm, an elbow, you can see where these folds form. And that's where references I think are super handy. Again, not worried about detail so much, just getting the gist of it. Now what I can do is I can move this guy over. I can frame it in such a way. I think this would be kind of cool where we just see, uh, you know, the punch coming through. This creates a really nice framing because the two arms are basically almost enveloping the main character that's punching. And you know what? If this is part of a panel layout where, let's say that it's a panel in a comic book, maybe I can get by with just showing this. So sometimes you might have to omit certain parts, um, and it's not going to really impact the story that you're telling. You've got this clearly demonstrating that there's a punch going on. You can tighten the panels. I just kind of expanded it out just in case there's like, word balloons, sound effects or something else like that. So my point here is that references are great. If you can find references, and some of these that I found on Pinterest were pretty awesome for practicing with, but don't worry about the details first. Focus on the general location of the shoulder blades and the pelvis first. And then start adding the limbs. And once you do that, then you can come back in and you can carry it out to detail. So what I'm going to do in kind of a time lapse version of this is just kind of finish this whole thing out. So I'll actually take this panel and complete it from where it's at right now to something that's more finalized. So sit back, enjoy. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video or found some value in it, please give it a like, and I will catch you in the next one and give me some feedback on ideas for upcoming videos. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks. And in a second, you'll see the screen do its thing.